Over the last few years, AI has become part of most of our daily work lives. But the area I think it's moving fastest has got to be content creation. Nowadays, teams can create content at a scale that just wouldn't have been possible even a few years ago, but I think it can be hard to know where to start. So in this episode, I sat down with Chris Madden, former head of content at 20VC and founder of 2 AI agencies, to discuss how the content creation game is changing in the era of AI. We chat about the right mindset for using AI effectively, the keys to effective content creation, and how authenticity is becoming more important than ever in connecting with your audience, and much, much more. I hope you enjoy the conversation. Let's jump in. All right. Welcome back, everyone. And hello, Chris. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us today.
Hello. Happy to be here.
Great to have you. Let's just jump straight in. Maybe, Chris, you want to give everyone a little bit of an intro to who you are, what you're up to, and then we can get talking.
Sure. I would describe myself as an online educator. I'm an edutainer that takes dense topics that come up in podcasts and try to condense it down to short form vertical video clips for TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts. I've started working with the All In podcast early days, about 4 years ago. EVC was our first big client, helped Harry Stebbings when he first turned on the video, getting that content out on TikTok, and grew that account to 20,000 followers over the 2 years that we worked together. And now have run 2 different agencies, one focusing on podcasting and podcast clips, and the other focusing on AI voice and AI voice clips, still doing short form video, but now you don't need to record. You can type in what you want to say and your voice will say, your AI voice will say it for you. So I've been keeping myself very busy, and I've got a lot to share, lots of ideas of this wild space and times we're in, and I'm very happy to be here with you.
Yeah, it's great to have you. I really appreciate you taking the time. I think what would be really interesting to jump directly into, I think what people are most curious about at the moment is what it's like running sort of like these AI focused agencies. Yeah, how's that experience been? Obviously the landscape has shifted so much in the last sort of 2-3 years about what's possible. Many companies still haven't even like adjusted to that reality. I speak often to people who are a little bit anxious working at sort of older agencies, older companies. They're sort of feeling like things have changed quite a bit, but they don't really know how. So it'd be really interesting to get your take on like what's going on, like what's it like to run these agencies and how things actually really changed on the ground.
Yeah, I'm happy to dive in. So a little bit of background and maybe an advantage I had is that I wasn't in tech. I wasn't in the startup ecosystem for the majority of my life. I was an English teacher living in different countries for a decade after university. I lived in France, Thailand, South Korea, and China teaching English as a second language. And then I was in China, the pandemic happened, went back to America and started listening to this podcast where I learned about the startup ecosystem and how venture capital works. And that's, when I started learning about AI. And so I was really early into ChatGPT 3.5, ChatGPT 4, actually founded a company, Imagine AI Live, where I launched a podcast. And so it is my kind of job to stay up to date on the AI ecosystem. This was 2 years ago, and talk with startup founders and entrepreneurs building in this space. And at the same time, running media and short form content, which I think is the quickest way to get to people's attention. And so kind of blending those things of like AI education and keeping people up to date on the AI space and short form video. And it came to, there a lot has happened, right? And AI seems maybe like this magical thing that does everything for you. But the realization that I've had is that the humans behind the scene are what's really important, and running these AI tools and using tools like 11 Labs, and you still need the human in there making sure that these generations come out good and like approving the final thing that you are about to make a video of. AI video is still really good. You get 5-10 second clippets of, if you prompt really well, you can get something succinct. But does that tell a story? Does that like, bring value to the viewer, that short clip? It might bring a little entertainment, but is it something that's going to drive people to want to follow your channel? What are you getting across? And so, I've blended this thing of, still human team, AI tools, and really focusing on the deliverable, which is the short form content that you're getting out, you're producing or publishing on the platforms.
Yeah, I totally relate to that. I think what people want with AI, or their hope and expectation of it, is that it's just this like magic box that they can put things in and like just like amazing things come out of it. What I find though is, at least in the work that I'm doing with my clients, my colleagues, that it really works a lot better when you use it to speed up workflows. So when you get it going from, rather than having like this, I'm just going to ask ChatGPT to produce something for me, I'm going to ask it to speed up a specific part of my process, or I'm going to ask it to speed things to, I'm going to ask it to help me move through a workflow much quicker. Cool. Yeah. So, small technical difficulty there, but let's jump back in. Yeah, but I totally agree on the way you're describing the use of AI. When I sit with like my clients, colleagues, often the expectation is that like AI is this like magic box that you can just ask it to do something and just like magic comes out. I find though that it's much better for you to treat it like, to like understand the workflow that you're doing. So you in your case, creating short form, like engaging short form, and then figuring out like, where is AI really good at speeding up that workflow today? That's how I've found like the most impactful ways to use it, to just like increase the velocity that I can move, to increase the pace in which I can solve problems, not to sort of like outsource like long complex workflows entirely. Does that line up with like how you're using AI at the moment?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, AI can't, allow you to process things in your head faster. It can process 100x faster than you, but that doesn't allow you to like absorb that information faster or know what's being done on your behalf. You still need to take the time to process what AI is telling or doing for you. And that's where the limitation comes in, is, are you in a place where you can trust the AI to do all these things for you and just take all these actions, interact with people, post on your behalf, and you don't know what's happening there, or somebody on your team, a human, has reviewed and knows what's happening there? Like, I don't think people are ready for that, and AI is not good enough to do that, or maybe it's good enough to do it, but there's going to be faults, and you're not going to know what's going out on your behalf or what's happening on your behalf. And so
Yeah.
the limitation is, our brain's ability to process information and receive information and then act on the behalf. But you highlighted things that AI is really good at, and that's helping you achieve your goals. That, as a business owner, as you are, as a business owner, as I am, I mean, just talking with AI as a business partner or a business development partner, it's already made me tens of thousands of dollars just in negotiations, like positioning, talking about the situation I'm going into with a new client and asking for advice, or, thinking out plans with my team. And, what should the focus be? It's an amazing oracle. It's an amazing, advisor. But at the end of the day, you still have to use it. Your team still has to process the information that it's telling you, the advice it's telling you, so that you can make the smart decisions to act, in your best interest.
Yeah. I mean, I think using it as a sounding board, it can be really helpful. You obviously have to also, I think it's like important to note that you also like, you have to be aware the models are sort of, glazing you, as the kids say these days. Like it's telling it's sort of designed to be a little bit positive, to sort of agree with you. You have to kind of push it to not be that way. And so like, I think it's very helpful as a sounding board to like get especially if you're sort of a vocal thinker. I think it can be really helpful to have that like emulation of a conversation. However, one of the things that I've experienced with it, which is pretty interesting, is a number of people complaining that people are like using it to, so like a friend of mine was saying like they were being driven mad by a junior colleague because they didn't agree with them on things, and they kept on coming back and saying, oh, but ChatGPT says this. Not realizing that like you can kind of get ChatGPT to say anything if you phrase the question the way that you want it in a certain way, right? Like you ask like, hey, is this process the best way to use it or best way to do this thing? Or can you tell me why this process is the best way to do this thing? It'll
Yeah.
come up with a reason to do that. So it's definitely like, I think it's an amazing piece of technology and like something that you can really leverage. But I also think you have to put those sort of guardrails in yourself a little bit as well, right?
Yeah, I think one of the best prompts you can ask ChatGPT is, what are my blind spots here? What am I not seeing? What are the questions I'm not asking in this prompt that I'm giving you, in this, goal I'm trying to achieve? That can be very revealing for sure. And you have to play the devil's advocate. You have to think of the full perspective. And I mean, the more context you give AI, the better it's going to be at helping you. This is one of the early days, one of the big, the context, history, knowing your history, and like it's pretty clear that people want their AI to know them, want their AI to know their context, because it's going to be able to help you better. And it was a question of how fast is that's going to happen. It's happened. Our AIs know us very well now, based because we're using it so much, and depending on what you give it. I finally started asking. It was a kind of a leap for me to start asking AI about health questions, and for not for just for me, but for my family. And so I've got a project file now. It's like, and I once you made that leap, and now asking, daughter's sick, has a fever, or fell, got a cut. Instead of having to rush to the hospital right away or overreacting, you calmly explain the situation, just in normal parlance, to AI, and it gives you very reassuring analysis of what's happening, and it saved us a lot of grief. One time, it advised us not to, no worries, and we still went to the hospital, and the doctor charged us $400 to go online and like look up the symptoms. And now we should have listened to AI in that case.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's just one example of how this technology is. I mean, I think health and education are the two groundswell things that is going to help everybody on the planet that chooses, that has access to this technology and chooses to use it.
Yeah. I mean, the rate of learning that you can do leveraging AI is incredible. And I also think the rate in which like new content is being produced now because of it, the volume in which you can produce now as like an online educator or like as a creator, that's also exploding, right? Like it's
Yeah.
it's
I mean,
much
maybe
easier now to do like knowledge products and knowledge, like to get your frameworks and thinking out into the world as well.
yeah, that's we can go into that, because that's exactly the realization that I came to, and exactly what I wanted to do with my cloned voice and my personal brand, Chris Madden, putting out daily content on tech news that I'm reading and learning about. And I feel like I want my friends and family. I changed my personal Instagram, my personal Facebook, and now 2 videos a day come out of like short 30-second info videos, high engagement info videos in my cloned AI voice that sounds like me. And I get 60 pieces of content out a month across 6 platforms. And there's a huge, there's a team behind that. That's what Cliptastic does, is it provides you that infrastructure and that team. But from my perspective, all I'm doing is dropping in a news story that I think is interesting, and maybe like a takeaway that I want to get across. But already my master prompt is good enough where it knows my morals, my mission, my the things I'm trying to get across to people, and it can put in that takeaway for me too. And so, I still review the script, I still review the video, I still review the social copy, all those things. That's like my reviewing process. But besides that, my team handles the rest of it, and AI handles the heavy lifting of script writing, social copy, and the voice generation. And then some visuals in there if we can't find good visuals elsewhere.
Yeah. Okay. And what's the sort of, what would you say the hit rate is on that? Like, are you getting out like the majority of the news stories you're dropping in? You're like, actually, like, this is smashing it out the park,
So
or
yeah,
is it more?
it's it's hit and miss. And it's about consistency. I started 3 months ago now, 4 months ago. I was at about 1 clip a day for the first 2 months, and I went up to 2 clips a day because I think that's the sweet spot, especially for TikTok. I mean, TikTok, they want you to post 3 to 5 times a day if you can, but it still has to be delivering a message. It still has to be something concise in the video. It can't be AI slop. And so we last month I got a video that hit both on Instagram and TikTok at the same time. It was about a news story of Chinese lithium. It was about Chinese lithium nuclear technology and a breakthrough they had. It did 250,000 views on Instagram, brought me in over 1,000 followers. I was at like 900. Now I'm over 2,500 after a month. And then it hit on TikTok too. And so, that's a hit. That's a definite hit when, typically the videos range in 1,000, maybe 2,000 views. So a good video might do 10, 15,000 views right now, but a hit, 250,000 views, that was huge for me, and it brought in the followers. And so you need the hits bring in the followers, and that's what you're working for. And so I've done tens of thousands of clips, podcast clips, and now this kind of free form scripting. And so that's what's cool about the AI side is that you can really try to engineer a good opening line and then engineer the visuals that go along with it because it's humans thinking about it and humans thinking about what to put to match the opening lines. And it's for create. I love it because it is very creative. There's still a huge creative process in it. And at the end of the day, I'm teaching something. I'm educating people about some piece of news. I think it's very important that people get up to speed with where technology is. That's one of the great things about technology and the tech space is that you can jump in today and you're going to be at the same level as anybody else because it's changing so quickly. And as long as you've got a willingness to learn and to accept that these things are happening and try to use the tools, you can start benefiting from it right away and stay ahead of the people that aren't paying attention to it.
Yeah, I think that's what's pretty exciting about the space for me. I think a lot of people are anxious about how quickly things are moving, and I get it, it is, there's definitely a little bit of a Dunning-Kruger effect to learning about AI where I remember the first time I saw like an AI that actually made sense to me. I think it was 2019. And I was working as a designer at that time, a UX designer. And I think it was GPT-2 had just come out and someone had prototyped a UI generation, generating an app. And I was all right, that's time to get out of the business back then. But then I didn't really look at it again until GPT 3.5. I think that was the watershed moment for AI, where everyone started to switch onto it. And I remember then being when you extrapolate out how quickly how quickly things were moving, being pretty gloomy about how everything was looking. Oh God, it's gonna, I'm not gonna have a job. This is gonna change everything. But I actually think that the rate of change, while it's been fast, has been much more gentle than I had initially anticipated. And I think many have anticipated. Once you get past sort of the alarmists in the space, you kind of realize that the technology is progressing quickly but steadily. It's offering lots of opportunities to onboard yourself and find the things that you're good at, find the things that it's good at, find those overlaps.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't speak too soon in that, it's been 3 years and a lot has changed, maybe not as quickly as you were worrying about, but it could just be getting started. And as this adoption does ripple through and companies do decide what to do with this technology and the technology continues to improve, we're still in for a heap of change. And that's one of the things that I think everyone's got to you've got to embrace the change. This too shall pass. This what we think is constant, once we think is stable, could be completely different a month from now, a year from now. And I think it's something that's important to teach at an early age, and being adaptable, and the solution to this is being a daily learner, being willing to learn new things, being susceptible to new information, and trying things out. You can't be static in your education. You'll get calcified. You'll get stuck in your ways. You'll be afraid to try new things. You'll be afraid to download a new app, try a new software. I mean, that really is the barrier for most people. It's like the act of downloading something else, creating an account, figuring out the UI, and it's just those early steps. And then the next time you do it, it's easier. The next time you do it, it's even easier. And in this tech world that we're moving into, it's a skill that everybody should have to stay competitive, to stay up to date, to better yourself. Because the reality is that we're going to be expected to do more with our time. I'm already doing way more with my time because of AI, thanks to AI. And the people that aren't using this technology, maybe they can only get out one piece of content every 2 days. I'm able to get out 2 pieces of content every day. And I'm still running, I'm doing this for other clients. I'm running a podcast agency. I've got a wife and 2 kids. I mean, I'm doing, this is just one little thing that I've got the system built for, thanks to AI and a good human team that's producing all this stuff for me. And so, that's, I feel like I'm trying to stay at the cutting edge of this technology and produce and do more and show more. And I think that's going to be just, the new expectation, the new reality is that you've got to use these tools so that you can produce more. And when you think about it that way, maybe GDP will really 2x with this AI boom that we're in, because people are going to be able to do so much more. But at the same time, it's the sand is shifting beneath our feet as far as the economics of businesses and how companies stay profitable in order to be able to hire people, and then as societies and governments, how they ensure enough work for everybody, or enough livelihood for people. I think there are lots of jobs that are secure. I mean, anything in the service industry, anything where you're using your hands to help people, extremely secure. Wages should go up there, I imagine. But it's this technology work, anything that you're doing via computer, that it's just, you're going to be expected to do more with your time.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that you're absolutely right. However, what I think is that I don't think that it's as sort of dire as people think. Like, I think it's exciting,
Well, that's the right mindset to have. Is that, I mean, you've got to think it's exciting. A lot of it's about perspective. I mean, I deal in the trade of attention, and trying to catch people's attention. But you also have to be very mindful of where your own attention's at and where you're spending your time focused on. And there's a lot of content and a lot of space out there in the world where it can be doom and gloom. I mean, I've been there before. I mean, I was a huge environmentalist in college, and all the horrible things happening around the world, and environmental destruction and poverty and all these things. I try to be a realist about the world, where things are, human nature, and try to get rid of the should and should not, and just look at what is and what's happening. And I think that if you can do that, and you can focus on productive things, and you focus your mind on productive thinking, you're going to be able to benefit yourself, your family, your community, your country, your world.
Yeah, I think being the people that I think are struggling the most are people who are like highly skeptical, right? Like that they're
cynical and skeptical. Yeah.
And I think, like, oh, this is, this is a bubble. And it's like, yes, it is a bubble, but it's also a very big piece of like technological shift. Like, those two things can both be true. It's not, they're not mutually exclusive, right? Like, there can be an overvaluation of the companies today, based on future speculation. And there can also be like this, like, fundamental shift in technology, like that we haven't seen really since like maybe the internet. I thought a lot about like the rate of change recently, like, and I was thinking about an early job I had about 10 years ago. I was working at a job tech company. And in that, I was speaking to like a lot of people who'd been in work for like 15 years. And I remember one person saying to me, it's like 2017, they said to me like 15, I've been in this job for 15 years and now that job doesn't exist anymore. And the last time I got a job, I found it in a newspaper. So they like were like looking in 2002, and then in 2017 they were sat chatting to me, and the whole world had changed. You know, like their job didn't exist anymore. The job they'd been doing for 15 years didn't exist anymore, and the way in which you found a job had completely changed as well. It came to mind just because of like that time frame. It doesn't feel very long. You know, a 15-year time frame doesn't feel like a crazy length of time. When you extrapolate out from here, it is hard to imagine like how much would have changed. At the same time, over those 15 years, majority of people have like grown and adapted. They've figured out how to onboard themselves to the digital economy. Things have how to use technology, how to find new jobs, all these things. And it'll be the same, I believe, excuse me, it'll be the same for most people today. I think we will probably see, I think if you think of like vibe coding, for example, everyone's like, oh, that's the end of development. That's the end of software development. And I'm like, no, that's like the complete opposite. Like from someone as a development insider, I think that vibe coding is going to lead to an explosion in the need of developers, because it's going to get to a point. It's really good at that first part, building technology, maintaining it, optimizing it. That's going to take a lot longer for it to get better at. So I think in general, my expectation is that it will create more, but that will create the need for more, as you say, productivity growth.
It's very fascinating. I agree with a lot of what you're saying. It's interesting as we start to produce more, and you can vibe an app, you can vibe a new business within a day. There's going to be a lot more vibed businesses and vibed apps out there. But what's the one thing that stays the same? It's the amount of time in a day, the amount of attention we 8 billion humans have to spend. And of that, half the day maybe on a phone, a third of the day on a phone, looking at a screen, doing something. So we have all this more production and all these more businesses and things fighting for the same window of people's time. And that's where I get so fascinated, because that's where social media comes in. And that's where trying to harness people's attention to get them to focus onto your app, onto your business, onto what you're doing in this very crowded space. In this, it's easier than ever to create content. And so the social media aspect, the marketing aspect, the branding aspect is as important or more important than the actual thing that you're building, because it's fighting over that one finite resource, which is our attention. And so that's why I think it's fundamental for people to take social media seriously. It's the modern distribution channels that we all use now, and it's growing in market share and growing in time use, and then study that and experiment. And for what I've seen is that it's short form video that is kind of this end state that we're at as far as trying to grab people in. And TikTok developed it, and everyone realized that, hey, this works. And this is, Instagram Reels copied it, YouTube Shorts copied it, LinkedIn's trying to do it. X says they're going to do it, but it's still pretty clunky there. So there are these, how do you grab attention, and studying that art, studying these algorithms and these platforms to best optimize it, and then being able to tell a story, being able to get your message out there in a way that people want to, maybe they see your thing, but are they going to follow the channel? Are they going to dig deeper to try to, learn about it and, actually purchase something? That's the challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, short form is the least commodified space in content, right? It's every platform has a shortfall of short form content, like quality short form content, mostly because of the rate of consumption. All the people doom scrolling TikTok for hours a day. It gets very hard to produce, to provide, like, the rate of consumption is just much higher for short form video compared to YouTube, which is a much more saturated space with high quality content, like high quality long form content that sort of takes people's attention, for a much longer period of time. So I think, short form is 100% like a huge opportunity right now. Like it's kind of the last frontier of content that you can sort of win at. And I think we've seen like a real we're seeing a real like surge of like high quality content um, in order
Well,
to grab that
I
attention.
think you need to have a strategy. And if you don't have a strategy, you're leaving a lot on the table. If you're expecting people to just check out your hour-long podcast from a name and a link alone, a thumbnail popping up on your feed, it's not enough. You need the short form to drive people to the long form. And because you've already recorded this long form, I mean, there's going to be, an hour long, at least 5, 10 gems of clips worth making that can be put into the vertical format and released to hit that, the daily consistency that the algorithms love.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think in general, we like, I think one of the things people don't realize has changed so much over the last 5 years is like how much marketing has moved on. Like, I think, yeah, you can vibe code an app in a day, but that doesn't change the fundamentals of like, having to build of the product, of building a product, right? Like you still have a lot of the realities of like needing developers, needing designers, those sorts of things. But the things that like a single person marketing a product can do today compared to what they could do in like 2019 is insane.
Yeah.
Uh, it is the the barrier of entry, I think, to marketing is lower, but the sort of requirement to be competitive is getting higher and higher. You go back to 2015, like writing on a platform daily was like a huge advantage. By the time ChatGPT 3.5 dropped, that the writing space had got pretty saturated and video was the play. And now the video is getting saturated as well. A lot of people have realized that like, hey, it's actually not that difficult to produce like decent quality video. And if I am, have the right setup and the right structure, the right strategy. Um, but so we're very quickly getting into like a volume play, like it becomes like how much good content, how many hooks can I put out there on a daily or a weekly basis in order to grab attention, to get people to pay attention to my thing. Because yeah,
Yeah.
the world's gonna get a lot noisier.
The best way to think about content creation is that it's a marathon that doesn't end, or it's a marathon that only ends when you decide to throw in the towel. And that's the mindset that you need to have when you start doing this, is having that long-term vision, that long-term goal, knowing that the thing that you're working on or the niche that you've gotten into is going to keep not only your audience engaged and entertained, but yourself. That you can see yourself doing this, having these conversations, working on the project a year from now, 3 years from now, it's 5 years from now, to be able to do that consistency. I mean, you see it all the time. You see it all the time of startups and projects and content creations and new podcasts that get going, and then I think the average podcast release is like 3 episodes, and then they call it quits. A lot of people set up everything and don't even get the first one out, or maybe they get one out and then they stop. So being number 2 here, I'm very excited for that. And my thing, you got to keep going, and you got to know why you're doing this, why you love what you do, and the conversations that you're having, and the mission behind it. So maybe, David, I'd like to like ask you, like, what is your mission and your drive here in this new venture that you've started?
Yeah, I mean, like, so this is just a side project for me at the moment, and it came out of this. Like, I was having interesting conversations with a lot of people. I am fairly active on LinkedIn. I am, an avid networker. I was meeting all these interesting people at different events online, and then just like connecting with them and having like these private conversations. And it was always sort of like gravitating around like technology, the market, like economics, the market, business strategy, product strategy, those sorts of things. There was definitely a theme in there. And a couple of people over the last sort of year have been like, well, we should record these conversations. And that was like the sort of first flag to me that was like, okay, like they want to have a copy of these conversations just for themselves. Maybe it would be interesting to just have like a fly on the wall style podcast for people who want to follow along on some interesting conversations with interesting people who are doing interesting things in this sort of like product space, the product world or technology world, let's say.
Yeah, that's a great purpose and reason to start, and that drive to just want to have interesting conversations and share those interesting conversations. And knowing that, if you like to talk, you like to talk with people, you like to ask questions, you like to learn from other people, and then, why keep that information just bottled up? Why not get it out there to more people so that they can learn as
Exactly.
well?
And I think that my ambition with this is that the eventual niche that it like clearly becomes will be emergent, right? Like there will be a time in which where it's like very apparent that like this is, at least at the moment, the thing that people are most interested in. My current bet is that most people are most interested in learning about AI, which is why, and the sort of state of the job market. Like those are the two things I think that, at least for people in my audience who follow me, I think that's the thing. Those are the questions I hear people asking most. Like how is AI affecting things, and how is it affecting the job? How is the job market? So the next guest I have coming on is going to talk a little bit more about their outlook on like the whole market for people in design and product. Yeah,
That's really interesting. And I do want to I want to try to help your audience as much as I can. And just one thing on the job searching side, I think social media and social media presence and having a good online presence is like a fundamental thing these days. Like I get applications, we are always looking for new video editors, new copywriters. And when they don't, I'm like, send me your LinkedIn, or like, what's your social media presence? What's your social footprint? I mean, knowing that somebody's comfortable having a version of themselves out there to the world, representing themselves is like kind of step one in my world, in my book. And and publishing your work, showing what you can do, showing, what value you can bring. I mean, that's incredibly important. In this sea of everybody, it feels like everybody's getting online, but there's still half the world that, at least, that doesn't take social media seriously. A lot of lurkers, people that use social media, but they don't um, have a presence themselves. It's not for everybody, and maybe what you're trying to do doesn't require a social media presence, and that's a different story. But for a lot of people, especially if you're trying to find a job, you need to have a representation of yourself on the internet. Otherwise, people don't know, what you're just somebody sending me your CV, and I'm supposed to like trust everything on here. I don't know. And so the way I like to think about it is that it's a dual persona of who you are, like, and how you want to be represented out in the world. I'm here, the real Chris Madden's right here speaking to you right now. And then there's this Chris Madden that lives on social media that, is a representation of me. And, it's my message is going out there, but it's just a version of me that is trying to represent myself the best, but also, teach um, teach things to the world, and in the AI tech space, a bit of a motivational, speaker, in the sense that I'm trying to encourage other people to embrace the world that we're in, when it comes to technology and social media, and hopefully better their lives as well.
yeah. I think one of the things I hear a lot, and I'd love to hear your take on this as well now, is that people feel they don't have anything interesting to share. I know how I got over that. I just realized that like there was like a only one version of me, and so I just started to filter everything through like my perspective, and like so I think it's I don't do how to content, I do how
Mhm.
I content. But I'd love to get your take on how if people are feeling that way, like, because that's one of the biggest like barriers I think that people have beyond the time commitment. I think the biggest barrier that many people have when it comes to like presenting themselves to the world is that they feel like they're just like repeating and parroting like the stuff that everyone else is doing. Like,
Yeah, yeah. It's I One of the best ideas you can keep in your head is that you shouldn't compare yourself to anybody else. You should compare yourself to where you were yesterday. And if you're making an improvement in that direction, you're heading in the right direction. There's always going to be people that you can point to and say they're already doing what I'm doing. They're way better than me. How could I ever catch up to them? You can't focus on that. That doesn't matter. What matters is where you're trying to go, what you're trying to do, the conversations you're trying to have, what you're trying to learn, and tell people what you've learned. And who cares if
mhm.
other people have said it already, or you think other people have said it in a better way. Your audience, who you're trying to talk to, and the algorithm, it doesn't care about the other people either. It cares about your audience you're trying to build. You do have to pick a niche. You do have to think about what you're trying to do, and you do have to think about what you're about, how you're trying to market yourself. I used to hate hearing this, but I say it all the time now. I mean, your name is a brand. Your face, your voice is a part of your brand. Whether you like it or not, you are a brand in a sense. And so especially when you enter the social media world. So thinking about it like that, and just your bio, the two sentences that describe what you're doing, at the top of the page, like the high level skim that somebody would have if they come to your page. What is that? And what are you trying to get people to do when they see that? And that's like step one. And just forget about the rest. Forget about comparing yourself to other people or thinking other people are doing it better, and just focus on what you're trying to contribute.
Yeah, I think that's really great advice. I think what I generally tell people, I would to add to that, what I generally tell people is like, just lower it down, like make it as easy as possible for yourself to start. I think Hormozy talks about this a lot, where he's like, just focus on quantity first. Like, can you produce a quantity of content consistently over a period of time, and then figure out quality later. I often see people like tripping themselves up when they get into this content game, when they start thinking like, what should I do? And then they're like building carousels or doing heavily
Yeah.
edited videos, and they just don't have those skills for those things at the time.
The reps are important. Doing something the first time is always going to be the hardest. And then once you've done it, you've got that experience, it becomes less worrisome, and you learn from it. The thing is, you got to get up and do it again, though. I mean, if we're
Yeah.
talking about content creation here and actually putting your real self out there, there's barriers to it, emotionally, psychologically. It takes some courage, and it takes a strategy, a plan, and just doing it though, and just like, I don't know, it doesn't. In the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like, of course, you want it to be good. You want to represent yourself well, but just do your best doing that. And
Hmm.
hey, that you call that a day, and then you get up and you do it again. And that's why I think this daily content creation, getting into, like, I've got to. That's what really changed the game for me. Is that when for creating clips for Harry Stebbings.
Hmm.
And we had to, my co-founder and I, Spencer, we had a challenge. I mean, this was a new game back in 2021, creating clips, and we had a challenge to ourselves to we each had to make a podcast clip a day. And we released it on the 20VC TikTok channel. And it was the perfect blend of competitiveness and experimentation to, who could get more views. And knowing that, waking up and knowing that, okay, I gotta mine Harry Stebbings content. I gotta watch another interview, and take notes and figure out what clips, starting point, end point, the hook, what visuals are we gonna bring in to try to keep people's attention. And then it gets out the door, and then you're just like, oh, you see a mistake, oh, I wish I did that differently, oh. And but it's out the door, and it's getting views, it's behind you, and you move to the next one, and you learn from that, and you improve the next one. And then, by the end of, we became, and we say we're the best in the podcasting game, because we honestly think we are, because we've had so many reps. We understand this business of attention so well, and what's going to drive people to, it's the first 3 seconds. You got to think about the hook. You got to think about what the context of the clip is, why people are going to want to stay past that first 3 seconds. Then you got to deliver something. And if you can get somebody to share that clip because it was valuable to them, then you've won. And that's what we think about in the clip game. Obviously, it's different when you're making your own content, but you do have to take that same principles of creating something every day, putting it out there, and getting used to that feeling of your stuff being live, and then interactions, having the crickets at first when nothing happens, and you're like, oh, I want to take it down, this is embarrassing or whatever. No, just keep it up, and improve on the next one, and do it again, and do it again. And that's the mindset you have to be in if you want to be a content creator.
Yeah, definitely. I think the expectation of results that people have are like wildly misrepresented, often by content creators, to be honest, like who are saying like, oh, yeah, I just launched this new thing and it went to like, $50,000 a month on your monthly recurring revenue. And it's like, yeah, but you've been doing this for like 8, 9, 10 years, building an audience, having like a built-in like community that are going to buy your stuff. Like it's impressive, like, but it's not to like diminish how impressive it is. The results they have are, but it's more just like, I think, where because of marketing, because of content creation, we're also shifting the expectations of results that people have on those things. I think it's much more healthy to, as you say, to like just try and compete with yourself, try and do a bit better than the last video, try and do a little bit better than the last month. Don't get bummed out if the algorithm changes and your reach drops, because the most important thing is that you're reaching people, that people are like, actually like seeing the content and it's registering with them, not that they're like liking it, that they're doing those things, and that you're showing up consistently in their feeds. 11 times does someone has to see you in order to like recognize you on social media, and then it's like 7+ hours that they have to spend on your content before they trust you, according to some study, I think. And it's just like, so yeah, it comes back to volume, and it comes back to just doing it and not being like caught up in this sort of
Yeah. You gotta get past that. And then the other thing is that going back to the adaptability and experimentation and being willing to learn, recognize mistakes or recognize areas that weren't fruitful, trying to figure out what you could be doing better, and actually making that pivot and trying different things. There's a lot of hacks in this game. One hack is seeing what other people are doing well and mimicking that. And
swipe files.
yeah. And yeah, there's a lot of
There definitely is. What would be your number one thing that you would recommend to someone who is thinking about getting into content creation today to do?
Well, I feel like that question is quite broad. If you want to,
It is.
If you're trying to be a video, show your face video creator, I guess the first thing you have to do is figure out what you're trying to do and be able to explain what you're trying to do in a sentence or two. And then, turn on the camera, record, plan, think about what you're trying to deliver. What's the hook? Is the first 3 seconds going to be interesting? Authenticity. Nobody wants to see you reading off a script, even though there's like AI tools now that are really helpful in like keeping eye contact, and maybe for some businesses and stuff that works. But if you're trying to, like, authenticity is the number one thing that people are looking for.
Yes.
In today's world. And so if you're not going to try to be yourself, if you're trying to be somebody that you don't feel comfortable being, it's probably not going to work in the long run. You have to have belief in yourself. Yeah, I'd be happy to answer more questions if you got more like.
No, I think that's a good answer.
The other thing is, it's these platforms. There's 6 major platforms. 7 if you include Snapchat. TikTok is the quickest way to go viral. Quickest way to TikTok, you could start up an account, and if you make a good video, if you make a compelling story, you can reach 100,000 people overnight. YouTube and Instagram are a lot more difficult, and that same video doesn't have a chance of doing that overnight. It takes building the algorithm's trust and a lot of consistency in posting. Then LinkedIn and X. My strategy is I make one piece of video content in the 9:16 format, and I post it across 6 platforms. And it's really made for TikTok, Instagram, which is connected to Facebook and YouTube. But it doesn't hurt to post it on LinkedIn and X too, is my feeling. But you have to change the copy. You have to adjust what the text is. On X, most people are not watching videos. They're reading the text. So you got to make sure the text actually delivers value too. It's not like a tease to watch the video, because people don't watch videos on X. And then LinkedIn, you can have a more elaborate copy and essentially explain what you said in the story, but in an elaborate text post too. And the platforms and algorithms are adjusting every month or so. And so, it's the thing going back to like leapfrogging. It's like getting in today's social media content creation. You've still got to adjust, and you've still got to adapt. But you might have advantage over people that have been doing it for years and are stuck in their ways, and like, this is the way to do it, but they haven't adjusted to the new algorithm, the new tools. Like, for example, Instagram has what is it called? They have their own editing software now on Instagram, and they're encouraging people to use that instead of using like CapCut and then like uploading the video onto Instagram. And so like those creators that are using the Instagram's own editing software, I'm sure the algorithms is promoting that and giving that a boost. And like they're updating the UI every week, so you play around with the new features and you use a new feature, and then that thing is going to be like a new thing, and it's going to do, it could do well. Um, a lot of what you're trying to break people's patterns, and people get used to things. I mean, now talking heads with captions, it's everywhere. I mean, that's what podcast clipping has turned into. And so what do you throw in there? How are you going to get people to pay attention to your talking ahead? And that's why at Good Future Media, we throw in a lot of relevant B-roll of people that they're talking about, and try to, it's not just captions and talking ahead. It's like bringing in the people that are being talked about, the places that are being talked about, and that still takes human editors to do. And there's a lot of AI clipping software out there, but it all starts to look the same after a while, and it's not great. I mean, it can select clips for you. It's like, okay, like sure, if you have no time, if you have no money to do it, try to do something different. Like it's a solution for you. It's probably better than not having any short form at all. It is better than having no short form at all. But if you're trying to stand out, if you're trying to make traction, you can't do what everybody else is doing. You have to try to be different in some way. And so we think a lot about that, because this is the end state. I mean, short form is the end state in my view. And so there is a lot of mimicking, there's a lot of doing what other people are doing, but new trends happen all the time, new memes happen all the time. Trying to do something different with your video to make it stand out is what you have to think. And that's what's fun about the field too, is that kind of forces you to be learning new stuff every day, because you've got to, and in order to do this well, you've got to be experimenting, you've got to be thinking about it differently.
Nice. I want to change track a little bit. You mentioned that you're working with Harry Stebbings, 20VC for a while. I'd love to hear a little bit more about what it was like to get a chance to work with Harry, work with 20VC. And then I guess from that, you will also have picked up a lot on the VC side, startup side of things. So I'd love to get your take on like the state of that world as well, with everything that's going on now too.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about my time working with Harry Stebbings. I mean, working for Harry Stebbings was an education upon itself, and he really exemplifies the startup hustle culture that is prevalent in Silicon Valley. I mean, this guy works all the time, and he's always thinking about work. I mean, we basically had a group chat where we're always talking. We're like, what clips going out, and like sending him the clips that went out. And to Harry's credit, he gave us a lot of freedom and trust to represent him well online with the clips that we were making. And this is what I suggest for all of our clients and in general, is like, let the creatives put stuff out there, and then give feedback, and then it gets implemented, it gets refined, iterated to be made better. The same, feedback, the same mistakes you try not to make them again. You try to incorporate the client's vision if they don't like something. But typically he liked what we were doing because we were getting views. I mean, they talk about 996, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week in China. It's a lot of startup cultures and stuff have that as well. I mean, Harry, it was 24/7 essentially. It was an expectation to always be on, willing to reply to a message, willing to jump on something, because we set a standard for ourselves essentially to post a video a day forever essentially. And my co-founder and I said 2 videos a day. Sometimes we would do more, but at least 1 video a day each that we were making and publishing. And so it built this habit of, you're working Saturdays and Sundays. If maybe you have a video ahead of time, but you're still uploading it to the platforms to publish on a Saturday night or Sunday night. And on top of that, I was doing this all from Korea, or most of it from Korea. So I'm dealing with time zone differences where, I'm working late at night, early in the morning. That was the first year. He was a client of ours. The second year, we joined 20VC. We were members of 20VC and got to learn way more. At that point, it was like, okay, I'm buying a book about venture capital and how this stuff works. And it was huge education. And learning about startups and funding startups. And there's a lot of psychology behind it too. There's a lot of, it's a power game. It's venture capital follows the power law. And I mean, it's of the biggest, best companies, the biggest, best people, there's what get all the attention and there's what get all the money. So you try to be in those companies and be associated with those people. And yeah. So, and then at the same time, we got kicks out of like knowing that, like, hey, this founder that just came on 20VC, that nobody's ever heard of this person before. There's no video posted about this person ever. And like, we get to be the first people that post a cool video of this guy's talking point, or like this cool point that he got across, this cool lesson that he has for the 20VC audience and into the TikTok world. And so, that's what I feel a lot of the work is doing. It's like cataloging these interesting people, these interesting lessons in the internet. And, they're always hashtagged and stuff. So now, you search these people and it could be one of our videos that pop up that, represent them online now for eternity.
Yeah, I mean, I think 20VC is like an amazing project for sure, and the work that Harry's doing, like, in general for the startup scene in Europe is pretty impressive too.
Yeah,
Like with
it's very inspiring.
Project Europe and stuff.
Can you think of any other VC, any other character that's trying to like lift up the venture industry in Europe or the startup ecosystem in Europe besides Harry Stebbings?
Not really. I mean, there's definitely like there's a growing sort of personality of like internet like entrepreneurs from Europe. You got Simon Squibb, but it's sort of a different vibe, right? Like there's nobody, he's definitely like leading the charge for, Harry's definitely leading the charge for sort of European investment, I think, at least online. I think it's been lagging quite badly in Europe in terms of like bringing that into the modern social media age to give these people like not just like these interesting entrepreneurs not just investment but also a platform, right? Like that, because that's I think that's what a lot of people need now more than they need money. Like if you want to give someone a leg up in the industry, having a platform that you can put them on is almost more valuable than handing them millions of dollars to build their business. Because it can be such an advantage to just like say like, oh, okay, now I'm going to expose you to like, 50, 100,000 people, who are in an audience of people who are in a group of people who, are engaged in topics of like investing and building businesses and stuff. Just like an incredible advantage to be able to be part of that. For a founder. So I think it's really impressive what Harry's done.
I think he's inspired, tens of thousands of people, if not more, to taking the plunge to building their own startup, to, maybe starting their own media presence and going direct to people. And that's one of the advantages that Harry has, is because he was a trailblazer, because he did it first. And now it's this marathon that doesn't end and he's not giving up. He is the de facto leader in this space. And he's built this huge platform that, as you said, is very powerful because it can help spread people's messages to more people. And yeah, that's what he's doing with Project Europe is very inspiring. His team is great. And it's one of those things where it's kind of the hard truths of life, maybe, or it's like, you got to work hard. You got to try to improve yourself, mistakes and, not cutting it, it doesn't cut it. And if it doesn't cut it, you don't get to stick around. And so it's kind of like, you've got to strive for excellence. And Harry certainly instilled that into my own work ethic and what I instill in my team as well, is that, you've got to be prideful of your work. You've got to be willing to learn and improve your skills, and mistakes are part of it. We all make mistakes and it's okay to make mistakes, but you just try to improve for the next time. And so I just think culturally he really, and I'm sure he gives a lot of great advice to, he does on his podcast, but like to other people building startups and building teams. It's really what inspired me to leave 20VC and go do my own thing and be a founder again, because it's so energizing and to be leading towards having a mission and trying to do great work.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that, a lot of people are kind of like, oh, we had a golden age of startups, and now it's over. I just don't think that that's the case. Like, I think we had like the last, go back from 2022 to 2012 to 22 was an amazing time to be in the startup space, in the tech space. There was SaaS, social media, mobile, all coming in that like 10-year period, really. But I'm actually more bullish on the startup space now than I have been for some time, um, because of how the barrier of entry has changed. One of the challenges that I saw in my early career is like there was a lot of like what I would now describe as 6-figure opportunities that required 7-figure teams. So like they required a 7-figure development team in order to build an opportunity that was going to generate like $500,000 a year or €500,000 a year. Now with the sort of shift in like the capabilities of AI, for example, I think we're going to be able to right size opportunities a lot better. So you will be able to build those sort of like, 2 developers will be able to build a nice, 6-figure start like tech company and have like a great business out of it. They don't need to go and take a ton of investment in order to, and then promise it's going to be a 7-figure business or an 8-figure business. I think that it's going to be it's an interesting time to be wanting to start a startup or wanting to be a founder or to be, trying a new business after failing at the previous one. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the space at the minute, though.
Yeah, I think one of the threads that we didn't touch on is community. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the play nowadays is to be established in a community and try to create your own community. And that network that you're building will help you in innumerable ways and in ways that you can't, predict. Like maybe it'll help, maybe it won't, but it's there for you. And
Yes.
so, school, SKOL is a great place to find startup communities. I mean, there's tons out there. I mean, there's podcast communities. I'm sure 20VC at this point probably has some community. And the All In podcast has a community of founders and, um, startup minded people. And that community is really important for the eventual success of your product, of your startup you're building, because you need early adopters, you need early people testing the product and being the cheerleaders for you, but for your product as well. And if you're just speaking into the void and not trying to garnish or grow a community or be a part of somebody else's community, it's a wasted opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the first guest that we had on the pod was Brendan Anderson from Lovable, who built up their community to like 140,000 people, and yeah, he talked a lot about the same sort of topics, like how much of an
Where did he
advantage it
build
is.
his community? Sorry.
So he was part of Lovable, their boot camp and stuff like that, and running some of their events. And he worked with them for like 8 months this year, taking their community like 55,000 people to like over 140K over that period of time. And he talked about the importance of the like translating an audience into a community, so that like, and I think it's very important for AI companies too, because one of the hard things about AI is that it's all new mental models, right? Like we don't have anywhere where it's like, how does it work when I am building a SaaS product? It's like, well, there's 1,000 examples of SaaS products out there, that how they should work and what's the right user experience, what's the right design for them. With AI, not really as established. People don't have this sort of familiarity. Like, if I open an app on my phone, 90% of the time you're already going to know how it works. It's going to be intuitive because you've been using this thing for, you know, 15 years now. But AI is still like pretty new to most people. Like it's maybe not even like a daily thing for them, for a lot of them. So like you pick up Lovable and you look at it for the first time, having never, and you're like, what the hell is this? Well, then the community becomes like a great place for you to go, to learn, to like troubleshoot, to get support, to find people who are also struggling and learning and doing interesting things. I think,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's really
incredibly
cool.
powerful.
A lot of these startups, they're building their own economic ecosystems, like people that understand Lovable. You can hire people that will build you an app via Lovable,
Yes.
for you and understands the UI, understands the ecosystem. I mean, I have people on my team that's like ClickUp is just like their one job is just managing our ClickUp and like keep integrating new things and making sure that that runs smoothly, or that's her main job right now. And it's, these all these software, it takes, it's an education in itself. It takes training, and it's cool. And that's a sign of success when like people are able to learn your product and make money off of it. If you can make a product that where other people are going to be able to use your product and make money, that's probably a good thing to get into, and that's a good sign if that happens, if people are making money off of your product or being
Yeah,
able to use it
definitely.
to help other people.
Yeah, I think it definitely creates a strong sense of like community around the product as well, and I think it all ties nicely together. Like Greg Eisenberg talks a lot about this ACP funnel nowadays, the audience community product funnel.
Ooh,
So it's a really interesting approach. So like he recommends not even building a product at the moment. He's like, just go build the audience first, then get the community, then build a community, and when you have the community, then build products for that community, because you'll
yeah,
build like something that immediately happens. And I think there's a lot of examples of that happening now. Like there is Jake Ward and Laura Acosta just launched Clio. So, but they're obviously like enormous creators on LinkedIn. They've been like, I think like 150 plus each. They had this strong community about like writing and creating content themselves, and then now they've released Clio, which is an AI writing assistant, and it's doing really well. It's gone up to like 60K after launching of the V2, 60K MMR after launching a V2. So I think that ACP funnel is like, it's incredibly powerful if you can leverage it properly.
yeah. I love Greg Eisenberg. He's an inspiration, and I'm right there with him. I think and that's why my advice to almost everyone is like figure out your social media game, start to build an audience, start to, what's your brand online, because that's kind of almost step one in order to have success. Yeah, build a great product and you need a social media presence for that thing. You need you need that thing's online presence. And what better way to do that than through the founder led marketing?
And I think the last thing to end on perhaps might be that the advice I always give people on this topic is dig your well before you're thirsty. I think it's Russell Brunson that says that. Um, Many people only start this journey of like content creation when they're already in progress of something that they need to get attention for, versus, you know, but the sort of 9 out of 10 times the major success stories I find end up being people who have, they've been digging their well for 10 years. Like Greg Eisenberg. Like, Greg Eisenberg's just crossed 500,000 on YouTube, but he was posting on Twitter for like 11 years before he got like major breakouts, like major sort of start traction. And he's been posting like 3 videos a week on YouTube for like 5 years. So it is just it's a long game. It's a marathon that never ends, as you said.
Yeah. And you know, and there's a lot of people behind the scenes that are helping him succeed. And it's those people that, don't share in the spotlight, and it's not their job to be in the spotlight. It's their job to help the person be in the spotlight. And if I could give a bit of a pitch to my two agencies here, um, you know, first of all, what started me on this journey is Good Future Media and podcast clipping, podcast management, full episodes, clips. That it's really, if you're already an established podcaster or you're trying to make a splash in the investment, Silicon Valley, venture capital, a more kind of technical space. That's really our forte is breaking those things down to interesting. We're working with Trading Places podcast right now and Solana Foundation as well. And we have a few niche accounts that we own that we can like free Business School and Techno Optimist, which is just a place where you can go and get cool clips of the tech ecosystem and learn from there, cool business clips, podcast clips. And then, what I really see as the future for a lot and a solution for a lot of these founders that are busy and people that are busy is cloning your voice or having an AI stock voice and letting that person, that voice be your voice online, saves you the time from recording. You can choose to have an AI avatar of yourself. Those are actually really good these days. But I find that that's still a bit inauthentic. And so, what I'm doing with my voice, what I'm doing for a handful of clients right now, but we have room, we have capacity to help other clients and help other founders that are busy, that want to be, have an authoritative voice in their niche, and we can implement those hacks that, jumping on news trends, talking about famous people and famous companies, and then linking to your product at the end, and then making product specific ads in between. Um, it's a really good strategy, and it's cost effective too. And it's certainly on the time side where you don't have to. I've got some clients that literally they review videos every once in a while. They give feedback, maybe just good job mostly, but they've got videos going out constantly on their accounts. It's growing. They've got a presence, and it's all thanks to an AI voice and a human team. And that's what Cliptastic AI does. Otherwise, following me at Chris Madden on any of the platforms, I would love to have you, and say hi. I love talking with people. I love helping people. I'd love to give you pro bono advice if you just say hi.
Amazing. Chris, I'm going to put all those, you're going to give me a bunch of links that I can put in the description of this video so people can get a hold of you. And I want to say a huge thank you for taking the time. It's been really interesting to get your insights on content creation, the state of the AI market, like being sort of optimistic about AI. It's been a really interesting conversation. Thank you a lot for taking the time.
David, thank you for having me. It's a blast being a guest on a podcast for a change versus my Imagine AI Live podcast that I've normally in your seat. But it was a fun back and forth here. I think we covered a lot of interesting topics, and would love to jump on again, maybe 6 months or a year from now.
Yeah, like you can be guest number 50 or 60 in a year from now, maybe once I get into that top statistic. But yeah, let's reconnect in a few months' time. We can hear what's up, and maybe our opinions will have changed a lot on AI by then.
Yeah, I'm
Cool.
sure a lot will have evolved. Thanks so much,
Yeah.
David.
Yeah, take care. Bye bye.
You too.